Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name is Renee LaValle McKenna. I'm a therapist and shamanic healer. And today I want to talk about eating as meditation. I also want to talk about eating as a disorder. I've actually had a lot more experience with eating as a disorder than I have with eating as meditation. Eating, like breathing, is often something we do without even thinking about it. And if we do think about it, that probably means thinking about what we eat or when we eat. But we rarely think about how we eat. And how we do things can be just as important, maybe even more important, than the what and the when. Because everything we do to have an experience, to create an attitude or a feeling. If I'm conscious of the food that I consume, I might be vegan. If you're health conscious, you might be aware of how many vegetables you eat, how much protein you consume. Do you eat organic? Take supplements. Make sure you get enough fiber and water. We do that to have better health, which is an experience. I've been experimenting with intermittent fasting, which I'll talk about a little later, which has a lot to do with when I eat. Lots of us might eat on the go, but it might be important for some people to share meals with others. Whenever possible, I make sure that I sit down with my kids and have a meal at the table. We've had family dinner together since they were born, pretty much every night. And I know I do best when my meal times are pretty structured. And when I was deep in my eating disorder, when I ate had a lot to do with that dysfunction. Waking up in the middle of the night and binging, actually binging all the time, 24 hours a day, pretty much. So having some consciousness or mindfulness about when I eat is important. But I never thought about how I ate until I was on retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh and the monks and nuns of Plum Village. And at every meal we practiced silent eating meditation. And whenever I lead a retreat with an overnight, I always incorporate an eating meditation if possible, because it's a really beautiful experience to eat mindfully. The essence of mindfulness is to be fully present in anything or everything that we do. And it really changes our experience. So the practice of mindfulness in anything is to come out of our head and really be in our body, in our sensory experience. Now that sensory experience absolutely can lead to contemplation. And contemplation is different than thinking. The intent of contemplation for me is insight and inspiration and connection. Contemplation is wisdom seeking. Thinking is information seeking. Contemplation is more of a soul level experience. Thinking is an intellectual or rational ego mind experience. So when mindfully approaching consumption of anything, a cup of coffee, a piece of fruit, we can start by just being aware of the sensory experience of the substance that we're going to take into our body. Really feeling the heat of the coffee cup, smelling the aroma, really experiencing how it feels as the liquid enters my mouth, being curious and present with the taste, and perhaps even following it all the way down my throat, noticing how I lift the cup and how I place it back down, noticing my breathing in between, and slowing down the whole process. Slowing it way down, maybe even to quarter speed. And there can be so much gratitude and connection in a cup of coffee. I'm a tea drinker, but same difference. We can notice that we have 10 digits that work and arms that can lift things. We have skin and a mouth and taste receptors to be able to interact with substances outside our body. We have eyes that can see colors and shapes. Really being present with this amazing opportunity to interact with the material world in all these different ways. As we're sensing, smelling, tasting, feeling the substance and the effect it has on us, where it flows into our body, nourishing it, and then the contemplation part. We may follow it through. As I consume this substance or beverage, it will move through, nourish my body. My body will receive what it needs from it, and then it will excrete the rest. And so part of this substance will be returned to the earth, to the ocean, to the land. I'm part of a cycle, taking things in and moving them out, like breathing in and breathing out. We're very physically connected, whether we're aware of it or not. And if we think deeply about the substance itself that we're consuming, we'll take coffee, for example. This coffee was produced likely in another country. It's a product of the sun and the rain and the earth and a lot of hard work. Many hands have touched this coffee, from planting, picking, roasting, shipping, packaging, selling. The cup that it exists in was created someplace by people, by other substances that come from the earth, and much hard work. And I take these things into my body, and it connects me with the earth, connects me with other humans. And the idea of interbeing, as independent as we might think we are, it's a fallacy. When I do mindful meals, I usually do them vegetarian, because thinking deeply about vegetables and where they came from can be much more peaceful for people than thinking about meat and animal products. I am a meat eater, and at this point, I don't have any plans to stop doing that, but I do generally thank the spirit of the animal that gave its life. And I'm in the process of finding meat that's more sustainably and organically produced, with less suffering for everyone involved, including the humans and the livestock. I just can't hang with the industrial meat industry anymore. This practice leads lots of people to become vegetarian and many to become vegan. I guess from my own perspective, we're all part of a life cycle. At this point in my own evolution, eating meat still feels okay for me. That may change, but I am working on the how I acquire that meat and where it comes from. So my biggest meal of the day is usually lunch. Again, I'm doing intermittent fasting. Most days I only eat in a 6 or 8 hour window. Usually my first meal is about 12:30 or 1 in the afternoon, somewhere between 12:30 and 2. And then I'll have a light dinner around 6. I went into menopause about 14 years ago, and my metabolism really shifted, and I started to just slowly gain weight. And so I've found that this 2 meals a day, maybe with a little snack, is optimal for me to be able to maintain my weight and feel really good, and it keeps everything regular. And gaining weight can really be triggering for me because I've gained and lost hundreds of pounds in my life. The first time I stopped drinking and smoking cigarettes, I was 16 years old. I gained 70 pounds in 7 months. I still have stretch marks all over my body from it. That might sound crazy, but my first cigarette was at 9 and I started drinking when I was 12. And there was no mindful eating at that point, just compulsive eating, binging and purging and binging and not purging. And food was a sedative. Food was a drug, particularly sugar and white flour. Now, I'm not radical about sugar and white flour either, but I don't eat a lot of either of them. And the funny thing is that your gut bacteria will tend to crave what you feed them. And so if you're into sugar and white flour, you'll actually need to kind of come off them, even moderately, for a while, and then you won't crave them anymore. When my kids were little, we had dessert every night, and I got into that. And then now I might have a little piece of dark chocolate once in a while, but sugar doesn't even really appeal to me very much, except in fruit and coffee. I love my latte with some sweet in it. So the precursor to eating meditation for me was to become mindful about why I was eating. And was I actually hungry? There was a long period of time where I didn't even have access to my own experience of hunger, or the idea of being hungry was almost frightening to me because it correlated so much with my underlying emotional problems and all of this unresolved neglect and my own abandonment of my emotional self. So it's a really powerful eating meditation to ask yourself why you're eating. Why am I eating this now? Is this a conscious choice? Is it to medicate something else? Is it because I'm bored? Is it because I'm sad, angry, frightened? Food can be a comfort for sure, but it's only a comfort if we don't feel guilt or shame or self-abuse after. So again, eating as an experience. Certainly Mindful eating can be an emotional experience. Sharing a meal with loved ones can be an emotional experience. But if I'm eating to avoid an emotional experience, I'm going to have indigestion, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Because I'm not digesting my emotional experience. That's what my feelings are for. They're a digestive process. Feelings are an experience. And experiences inform us and change us. They deepen us and call us to grow. And the more deeply we can live in any experience, the more we get out of it, and the more conscious our choices are in how we respond to it. And the choices we make create our life experience. It's a cycle of how we actually create our own experience. And it can start with food. And I'm going to end with the beautiful eating meditation prayer that sat on the tables at the Thich Nhat Hanh retreat. This food is a gift of the earth, the sky, numerous living beings, and much hard and loving work. May we eat with mindfulness and gratitude so as to be worthy to receive this food. May we recognize and transform unwholesome mental formations, especially our greed, and learn to eat with moderation. May we keep our compassion alive by eating in such a way that reduces the suffering of living beings, stops contributing to climate change, and heals and preserves our precious planet. We accept this food so that we may nurture our brotherhood and sisterhood, build our community, and realize our ideal of serving all living beings. So the next meal you have, take a moment. Come really present. Taste what enters your mouth. Feel the texture of it, the temperature of it. Notice the fork or the cup as it reaches your lips, your own hands that hold it, the aroma, the sights and sounds that are around you. And contemplate the connection with the earth, with the cosmos, and with the other humans that you're ingesting into your own body at that moment. Blessings on your path. Until we meet again, this is Renee LaValle McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.